ClashMobs were a very integral feature to Infinity Blade 2 and 3. Throughout Infinity Blade's lifespan, there were hundreds of ClashMobs held, and when you get so much of anything, there's always a few mishaps or special occurrences. Today we will be talking about the ClashMobs that stood out from the norm due to their significance or a glitch. I'll start off this list with the very first ClashMob ever released. It was significant because it would end up being one of the best things ever added to Infinity Blade 2. It happened on April 12th, 2012. Without this ClashMob, no others would have followed. It also set a baseline for what players were capable of and was the first large-scale test of ClashMobs. The next notable ClashMob came in August of 2012. It was actually a pair of ClashMobs that were special. The first one was held on August 19th, 2012, and the second on August 26th, 2012. Chair added an item called a ClashMob prize wheel. Now, no one still active actually remembers this item, so I'm going off what the Infinity Blade Weekend ClashMob post says. It reads, "This prize wheel will give the player a prize wheel with a list of items based on the player's current level. That means this prize wheel could be useful to everyone, not just newer players." Chair put a decent amount of time into making this specialized prize wheel, but strangely it would never be given out again after those two ClashMobs. That probably makes it the rarest item in all of Infinity Blade. Only 3 months later would the next major ClashMob happen. It was the first ClashMob ever to award the Cryo Loop. The ClashMob started as normal on November 18th, 2012 at 4 PM EST. By the time it was 4:25, the ClashMob had already ended. ClashMobs usually last at least a few days, so how is it possible that this one had been completed so quickly? The answer lies within an archived forum thread. Hackers. Players had hacked the game to get insane advantages. With them, they were able to defeat a ClashMob in 25 minutes. That made it the fastest ClashMob ever. Many of the forum veterans had come together to tally up how many of them had earned the Cryo Loop. The total number of players was 10. To make up for this mishap, the Cryo Loop would eventually be given out again, but it was 4 months later. The next important ClashMob would happen on March 14th, 2013. It was the Butcher ClashMob. This was special because it was in collaboration with Gears of War Judgment, which was, at the time, the new Gears of War title on the way by Epic Games. While the Butcher wasn't exactly a new enemy, it was clearly modeled after the Butcher from Gears of War. There weren't exclusive items for this ClashMob, but you could earn Butcher-themed weapons, which are the Judge and the Cleaver Grinder. If you want to see the Butcher enemy in-game today, you can find him guarding the sky cages occasionally. The last noteworthy ClashMob from Infinity Blade 2 is the failed Vim helmet event. It happened on May 7th, 2013. This was the second time the Vim helmet was available to win in a ClashMob. Unfortunately, the players didn't do enough damage to the Feral Troll and actually failed the ClashMob. To this day, that remains the only time a ClashMob has ever been lost. Thankfully, the Vim helmet would end up being offered again at a later date. Those are all the significant ClashMobs from Infinity Blade 2, so next are all the ones from Infinity Blade 3. The first would happen on December 13th, 2013. It is probably the most famous ClashMob ever in Infinity Blade history. It was the 47 Ronin ClashMob. Chair Studios collaborated with Universal Pictures, the company producing 47 Ronin, to help promote the movie. A special enemy called the Samurai Brute was added to the game. This was the first and only completely new enemy added for a ClashMob. It was also the first to award a ClashMob exclusive weapon in Infinity Blade 3. After this ClashMob was over, the Samurai Brute would never be seen again. After that, ClashMobs would continue as normal for 6 whole months before something interesting would happen. That was the introduction of Aegis Tournaments. If you don't know what an Aegis Tournament is, it's a multi-staged Clash Mob that rewards exclusive items. The first tournament shaped all other Aegis Tournaments that came after it. It started on June 17th, 2014. The first stage cutoff was the top 80% would move on to the next stage. That percent is pretty standard for Aegis Tournaments, but if you went and took a look at the final stage, you would see only the top 1% would qualify for the Anarchax. Thankfully, this would be changed before the final stage went live, but we were very close to a world where almost no one would have the Aegis Tournament items. Next up are the Treasure Gem ClashMobs. I don't have exact dates for these ones because they aren't documented well, and there were multiple. These Clash Mobs had a glitch that caused the rewards to be treasure gems rather than the items they were supposed to give out. Treasure gems are completely useless circle gems and were given out by accident at least twice from Clash Mobs. Nowadays they are very rare and seen as trophies in the community. The final Clash Mob I'm going to talk about today, maybe unsurprisingly, is the final Clash Mob ever in Infinity Blade. This one is special not only because it's the final Clash Mob, but because of some other factors as well. It happened on February 5th, 2019. This was part of a final run of Clash Mobs to give out Aegis Tournament gear one last time. It was the only time those items were ever given out in Clash Mobs rather than Aegis Tournaments. The last one is special because it was actually a redo of a failed Clash Mob for the Radiant Helmet that happened on Christmas 2018. The original one was completed way too fast like the Cryoloop one previously mentioned. So those are all the noteworthy Clash Mobs that happened throughout Infinity Blade's lifetime. If you want to know more, I'll have a few other cool Clash Mobs in the pinned comment below. And I promise, this is the last video about Clash Mobs for a while. Let me know if you guys recall any other cool Clash Mobs in the comments. If you guys have any other questions about Clash Mobs, watch my Clash Mobs history video which should answer any of the questions you have. Thanks for watching.